William Lawrence. He's a former diplomat and a professor of political science at the American University here in Washington. William, it is not a segment on Libya if we don't have you to add your expertise to all of this. How great a victory is this for the UN-backed government there, and what difference will it make in this conflict?
Well, it's great to be back with you. And I think if Libya went away, my life would be much more boring, but hopefully it'll be moving in the direction of peace soon. This taking of the airport is highly significant, in particular symbolically first, because the airport was one of the first major positions in the West taken by Haftar when he started the civil war, this putschist civil war back in 2014. And so to take back Tripoli's international airport, so ravaged by the fighting way back then, 6 years ago, is a hugely significant symbolic step, although it doesn't do much to push Haftar back further than he's already been pushed back by the victories over the last 6 weeks or so. I think the main question right now is whether Haftar's military defeats will push him closer to a negotiating position that actually works for both sides, or whether he'll just be playing for time and try to position himself for future military victories by participating in talks.
William, can you remind our viewers why we see so many different stakeholders in Libya and what stability in Libya means for the region?
Well, there are many international players, less than, of course, the number in Syria and perhaps more than Yemen. But like Syria and Yemen, the international players all have their own interests, which are quite often not quite the same as Libyan interests. And Libyans are increasingly saying that they feel that they're watching someone else's war on their land. Libya is hugely important geostrategically, geographically for the area. Libya's security impacts the Tunisian revolution and democratic transition. It impacts Algeria's security. Both countries have huge oil and gas resources of great significance to Europe and Africa. Libya is right next to Egypt, and Egypt has a big hand, and Egypt's backers in the Gulf have a big set of concerns about terrorism emanating from Libya into the Egyptian space, et cetera, et cetera. Even the Libyan agreement with Turkey, of course, upsets the balance for Greece and Cyprus and Israel and Egypt when it comes to undersea gas exploration in the Mediterranean. So it's right there, a central player in that Mediterranean neighborhood that is the southern flank of Europe, the southern flank of NATO, and therefore has even global implications. Let me just add that the migration issue emanating from Libya has had a deep impact on the European Union's future and on the rise of right-wing parties in Europe due to illegal migration. So all of that means the stakes in the Libyan conflict are huge, and those are some of the reasons why so many countries are so deeply mixed up in what's going on the ground in Libya.
And William, you rightfully make a lot of comparisons with Syria. And when you look at both of the conflicts, you wonder where the end is. Certainly in Syria, you say to yourself that you have the rebels that were corralled in Idlib, and there's stability in Idlib there still, but that has not fallen to the regime. You have actors wanting to start to pull up a political framework for where the country should go from there. But in terms of where the Libyan conflict is headed from here, what can you add to that?
Well, there's been a huge Syrianization of the conflict. Not only are both sides employing Syrian elements, pro-Assad elements for Haftar, and free Syrian elements with the Turks. These are mostly Syrian Turkmen. And therefore, we've just transplanted the front lines from Syria into Libya. But even the mercenaries, some of the Russian mercenaries that were fighting not only in Ukraine but in Syria are now transplanted to the Libyan conflict. And the different positions international players took on Syria are just being replicated to some degree in the Libyan front. I think one of the differences for Libya is that you have Italy on one side and France on the other, and this has everything to do with pre-existing colonial and colonial era relationships with different part of Libya, and whichever side thinks best represents its oil and gas interests in the post-conflict environment. We even have the Russians and the Chinese jockeying for future reconstruction contracts like we have in the Syria conflict. So not only is it very much replicating the Syria experience, but it's the Libyan conflicts being Syrianized week on week.
And there's a lot at stake there. William Lawrence, really great to have you back. Thanks for being with us.